Hello and welcome back to NewtyGuitars, and today we're going to be talking about what happens when you get your first gig. So some of you may be in bands, you may have already gigged, you might just be playing at home and just having fun of it. But for you, those of you who are in bands, you may be rehearsing, you might be writing some songs, you might even be uploading little rehearsal things to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, any other kind of social media that you might be using. And you're having fun with it and you're having a great time with your friends, you're exploring your instruments and getting a feel for songwriting, performance, and that sort of thing. And you get a message come through on your DMs that has a subject line for gig offer. You're playing a local show, it might be opening for another local band. It could be something rather big. Excitedly, you talked about it and you get an email sent back saying, yes, we'd love to play that show. A few days later, you get an email saying, okay, we need a couple of things from you. Here's the backline information. We need your rider. Here's your set list. And you read through the email and you think, you know what, I'm not actually sure what any of that really means. What's a backline? What do I need to bring? What's a tech rider? What goes on it? So I'm going to be talking about some of that today. Now, I've done a few gigs in my time. I'm not a touring musician, so my experience is fairly limited, but it's important to kind of know that anyone can give their experience of these things. And the basics are pretty much the same. It doesn't really matter what size venue you're playing. Some things will be different, like what you can bring, what you can take. But if you're an opening band, there's a few things that you need to remember. And if you stay towards the end of the video for one thing that you absolutely must not do at any show that you ever get called to play on. First of all, backline. What is that? So the backline is the equipment that the venue, has. So it might be that they have a couple of guitar cabs, they might even have heads or amps, they might have a bass cab and head, they'll have a drum kit of some sort. It might be in very good condition, it may not. It depends on the venue. The jokes of the house kits being fine and good are long gone. The house kits typically are fairly decent bits of equipment. And the house cabs that I've used over the years, they've been from fairly decent brands, Marshall, Orange, that sort of thing here in the UK as well. Okay, but you will be expected to bring your own stuff. So for guitarists, that's your guitar, obviously. But I think sometimes you need to state the obvious. It's always also good to bring a spare as well. If you don't want to be halfway through your first song and have a string break. Depending on the band that you play in, that may not be a big deal. If you've got any kind of floating tremolo system, then basically you're screwed, really. So you need to change that out straight away. You won't have time to restring it. Your set will be over by the time you'll be able to do that. So always bring a spare. You'll also need your basic gear, your cables, your picks, any equipment you might need, slides, capos, pedals, pedal boards, tuner. Always bring a tuner and always bring batteries. You can never have enough batteries. We've had to reroute entire pedal boards before where a pedal's gone down, we can't figure it out, so we just have to take it out and just plug straight into the amp. So make sure you've always got a backup of some description. Okay. You may want to bring a guitar head as well. Sometimes the ones at the venue may not be for the sort of music you play. It's all very well the venue having a Fender Twin, but you might be in a grindcore band, so that's not really going to give you the sort of sound that you want. But just bear in mind that you don't need to bring a wall full of cabs and 2 amp heads. Just the amp head's enough. The cab will be absolutely fine, really. Again, for bassists, it's the same information. Make sure that you've got a spare bass. Make sure that you've got everything. Do you need batteries for active pickups? Are you using a DI? Think about all of these things and then always see if you've got a backup or a spare that you can use. Singers, vocalists may want to bring your own mics. I always do. Mainly because I don't like the idea of getting super close to a microphone that has someone else's like mouth juices on it. And I'm familiar with the equipment that I use, and I just prefer it. And if you let people know ahead of time, then the venue's normally absolutely fine with it. Okay. Drummers, don't bring your whole drum kit. You don't need a full like Joey Jordison rack of cymbals or toms or anything like that. Yes, you might have that on your records, but bear in mind that some of these venues are quite small and you don't have the space to be able to bring everything in as much as you love it all. So think about what you really, and I mean really, need. So the house will typically have a kick drum, they'll have stands. Normally you would bring your pedals, your cymbals, your snare. Sometimes you can bring your toms, especially if you need a couple of extra ones, and I mean a couple, like one or two as well. But always ask the venue. They'll normally send you a list of everything that they have, and then you can decide what you need to bring. Now, a tech rider. A tech rider is something that you produce to give to the venue so they know who's in your band, what instruments they do, what setup they need. So, and also that kind of helps them know what they need to have ready when you get to the venue. Okay. So something might be, we've got bassist who does vocals. They're center stage, so we need a mic stand and vocals for him or her, but they're using a DI, so they don't have a bass cab or an amp, they just go straight in. Whereas the second guitarist on stage left, they do backing vocals, so we need a mic stand and a mic for them. They use an amp head going into this. The other guitarist stage right doesn't do vocals, but they use a quad cortex or similar, and that goes straight into the PA. And all this is useful for the venue to know what they're doing and what the sound person needs to do as well, because then they know exactly what the layout is, who's using what, whether you're using in-ears, and you can write this. Typically I find it easier to produce a picture because it's super simple. You can just look at it, look at the picture, see where people are, what they've got, what they need, done. Whereas if you're writing stuff out, there's room for misinterpretation. There's also, people get bored reading, really. Just draw a nice pretty picture, open up something in Word, make a few squares, a few boxes, type it in, and you're done. Really, that's what we do for my band. We have that saved on the Dropbox, so that if anyone is, we get a gig offer come through and we need to send it, we have like a little package of stuff. So there's a vector file of our logo so that can go on posters. For those of you who don't know, a vector is a image file that no matter how large you make that image, it scales and it keeps resolution. Whereas something like a JPEG, if you zoom in on it and make it bigger, it goes all pixely and looks really, really poor. So a vector file, you can YouTube how to make things into vectors. We also have our rider as well, so we just send that all together to the venue. They know exactly what we're running with and what we've got. Okay. Loading times. So this is very important. The loading time is the time that the band gets to the venue to put all of their gear into the venue, and then they can go and park up their van, their cars, wherever it happens to be. And that gives you good time to essentially say hi to people, introduce yourself to the sound person, say hi to the other bands, say hi to the promoter if they're there, or the bar staff. It's always good to introduce yourself to people, because most of music is networking, and it's who you know in the industry and what they know and what they can do for you. So forming those bonds and those friendships is incredibly important. And also it's just polite, really, just to introduce yourself. Say hi to the sound person, say who you are in the band. If you've got any questions, come find this person, they know a lot more about X, Y, Z. It just makes the whole process run a lot smoother. But also it gives time to make sure that you've got everything. You can set up merch as well. There's nearly always a place that you can sell your merch. Tune, allow instruments to acclimatise to the venue, and also start doing things like your line checking and your sound checking. So the sound checking will normally be done once the headliners have set up their drum kit, or the drum kit is set up, because you always start with the drums first, and you'll probably have heard places where you just hear that kick drum just going for ages, and then you hear it kind of get mixed and heralded, and then it starts with the snare, and then it'll be toms, and then it'll be cymbals, and then it'll be whole kit, bass, guitars, backing tracks potentially if you have that, and then vocals main, vocals backup. Once that has been set, you should never ever change your amp volume, because it'll just muck up the whole thing and the sound person will hate you for it. I learned this at my very first gig. I was probably about 15, playing a very local show. I couldn't hear what I was on stage. I didn't use in-ears at that time, didn't know what in-ears were. So I went and just turned up my amp, continued to turn it up, and the sound guy was absolutely livid with me, so I never did it again. Because I spend a lot of time getting the sound right for that venue. They know that venue intimately. They know what works, what doesn't work, what settings, how to mix a band of certain sizes, what different genres. And so if they do all that hard work, and then you go and muck it up just by turning up your amp up, like the master volume up, it just wrecks the whole thing. So if you do need more volume, ask it in the monitors, or if you've got in-ears, just ask for it to be put through the in-ears, and it'll be a lot better. Your audience will thank you for it, the sound person will thank you for it, and also you'll be able to hear better, and your ears will thank you because you're not pushing the stage volume as much, wrecking your hearing, which of course as musicians we are kind of reliant on. Now a line check is basically for the other bands before they just go on, just kind of plug in, strum a few chords, make sure that everything is working and that they can hear everything, and then it's go. Okay, so it's basically like a mini sound check, but it'll be mixed on the fly. So if you're playing and the sound person notices something, they might tweak it ever so slightly, bring down the bass because it might be hotter, and this sort of thing as well. So your set length. So if you're the first band on, or if you're any band on, make sure you have a set list that's prepared to allow for just under your allotted time. The main reason for that is something could go wrong. Guitar could go out of tune, pedal might fail, snare head might break. We played a gig once where the bass amp caught fire. That was fun. Only a little fire, no one was hurt, everything was absolutely fine. I think it just might have overheated. It was a very hot summer's day, small venue, but yeah, so you have to allow the things. You don't want to have a 30-minute set, plan exactly for finishing 30 minutes, and then you overrun, because that's inconsiderate to the other bands, because they then potentially might have to cut their shit short to allow for that because of curfews. So if you've got a 30-minute set, aim for about 27 minutes. It also gives you time to talk to the crowd, introduce your band, introduce the members of the band, say what you've got for sale. Say you've got a new single out, find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram, follow us. Our next show is such and such a place. The next band is this. We'd like to thank the promoter for having us. We'd like to thank you guys for coming up to the show. All that sort of thing is incredibly important. Because just standing there, playing your instruments, just without any introduction, potentially no one knows who you are. Some people may do, but you need to drill your band name. You need to drill the next song. This is a single from our next album. This is from our first ever. This is our first song that we wrote together. Like this kind of thing. It's engaging, and it helps create memories for those people that are watching you. But as I said, the most important thing is if you've got that set length, just time it and keep a couple of minutes after that. When you're at rehearsals, just run it from the start to the beginning, non-stop, and then kind of see how much leeway that you have. At the end of your set, you'll have probably a 10-15 minute changeover for the next band. Now during that, what you don't want to be doing is this. Like you don't need to be cleaning your guitars on stage. You don't need to be coiling cables. You've got a limited amount of time, and every minute that you're over that changeover eats into the time for the rest of the gig. Again, it's inconsiderate. How would you like it if you were the second or third band on, and you're just standing there waiting to bring all your gear on stage, and people are there sort of like cleaning each individual string with a string cleaner, or they're spraying their guitars and they're wiping everything off, they're coiling all their cables perfectly. Like literally just grab your gear, get off stage as quickly and as safely as you can. Make sure you've got your bits and pieces. If you've got a big pedal board, just chuck everything on top of it, lift it up, move out the way, grab your guitars and your stand, again just move out the way, and then the other band will have plenty of time for them to get on stage, set up, plug everything in and do the line check and keep the evening flowing for it. So you played your set, everyone enjoyed it. What do? You stay and watch the other bands. You support the other bands. If you've got merch, maybe you'd be staying with the merch and kind of selling items, talking to people that are coming up, sort of asking you about your band, your set. But the main thing is that you don't piss off after your set and take all of your mates with you. That is the number one thing that really irks me. But just make sure that you and the people you brought are supporting the other bands, because you've been asked to support them. And they've stayed and they've watched your set and they've been there in the crowds, they've cheered you on, they've offered words of encouragement, and then if you piss off, it's just really disheartening and it's inconsiderate and it's rude. So even if it's not your thing, just stand there, take some photos so you can send it to the band so they can upload to their socials. That's a really good way of networking. Take some photos for other bands, upload it to a group chat for the gig, DM them on Instagram, anything like that. But it's important that you stay for your other musical friends. Similarly, if someone asks you what time you're playing a show, don't say the time that you're on, say the time that the doors open. Support everything. Because remember, if there weren't people going to these local shows, you wouldn't have any shows to play, and there won't be any bands, and then there won't be any big bands to fill these festivals. Where do you think all of these bands came from? Like Metallica had to start somewhere. Bring Me the Horizon started somewhere. Like name a band. They didn't start in arenas. They started in garages. They started in pubs, in venues, working men's clubs. They started at high schools. They started in colleges. All these sorts of things. Just remember that everyone in the music scene is part of a community, and we need to support each other. So staying for their sets and watching their sets and enjoying it and having fun, that's like the most amazing thing as musicians, see people enjoying the music that you've written and you've created. But just make sure that you just stay, okay? So I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Consider watching my other videos. I try to upload weekly and shorts every twice a week, something like that. Consider giving those a watch. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.